evening. My name is Susan Stevenson, and I'm the chair of the Board of Architectural Review and Historic Preservation for the Village of Southampton, New York. I'm calling this meeting on April 8th to order. Do I have a motion to open the meeting?
I make a motion that we open this meeting of the Board of Architecture Review and Historic Preservation on April 8th, 2019.
Second, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Before we begin, I want to make it clear that I expect everyone, the board and the public, to act and speak with civility during this meeting. Anyone who wants to speak should sign up on this list on the front table so we have a correct spelling of your name. And no one may approach the table and speak until they are recognized by the chair to avoid confusion. If you are presenting materials, please put them on the desk facing the board. That means facing us, so our videographer can get a shot of them. Now I'd like to introduce our board for tonight. To my left, Rob Coburn and Christina Redding. To my right, Jeff Broadleib and Curtis Highsmith, who is appearing with coffee. Our counsel, Bo Robinson, and our historic consultant, Zach Studenroth, are here. Antoinette Edwards is our recording secretary, and Charles Styler is our videographer. Let's begin. Approval of the minutes for March 25th, 2019. I did not have time personally to review them. Was it just put in today?
No, I
Oh, there was another correction.
that was revised one that you received today. I would comments from
What?
I was in a training meeting, so I'm not prepared to.
Hold off?
But can we hold off?
Sure.
Sorry, but we were in meetings that started
I
at 3.
make a motion that we don't make a motion.
Don't need a motion.
No, next.
We'll just approve it next.
Then we'll move on to signs. First, Charleston Shoe Company, 18 Jogues Lane, window sign.
Hi,
State your name, sir, please.
my name's Anthony Droz, and I'll pass this. Goes that way?
Application.
You can pass this with Dave, so that I'll have a copy.
So is that any different from this, the original?
No, I just want to make sure you all have a copy so you can see it.
Okay. Here, Rob.
Okay.
Thanks, Curtis.
So what's changed here? Just the location of the sign?
No, this is window lettering, this is separate. The signage was already
No,
approved.
we're talking about the window, right.
Yep,
So I'm talking
yeah.
about, sorry, about the
So-
window
I'm
decal.
sorry, it's in the picture, I understand, yeah.
Yep.
The sign was approved. This is for the window lettering. It meets the 25% code, and the colors match the signage, so it's all consistent.
So when, someone else was here representing you last time, I think.
Yes,
And the request was to make it smaller.
for...
Or remove the
Make it
circle.
smaller.
Okay, I have those as options. I believe they did make it smaller from previous.
That's what I was asking. It doesn't appear to be, because the original application was 43.41 inches wide, and this is indicating 43.41 inches wide.
Oh, I'm
So-
sorry. I think I had, you know what it is? Hold on, I think I gave you the wrong one. I did give you the wrong one.
Okay.
I'm very sorry.
Okay, so let's,
Okay, so I have one here with, let me
well,
pass. Sorry about that.
we're not usually the choosers, are we? No, you have to just present something and we're going to say yes or no and
Yes.
make comments on it, I'm afraid. It's
So
not like a,
that, sorry, that was my mistake.
so you're presenting this as what you'd like us to consider?
Yes, without the circle option.
I am going to like it. How'd you know? I just, the other thing was it's 40 inches long and 8 inches high, which is this.
Well under the
Okay,
25%
well,
code, though.
I know,
I
but,
think this is fine.
okay, I have no objection. Anyone else?
Charlie, can you pick that up? Has it been on the screen? The sign that's on the table?
Facing the right way, right?
It is. We're just getting going here. All righty.
Okay.
Do I have a motion to approve?
So you need two of these.
Any comment from the public? So are we in agreement that this is acceptable? Motion to approve?
I make a motion that we approve the sign application for Charleston Shoe on Joe's Lane. It's for the window sign.
For the window sign. Second? Aye?
Aye.
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 So just when you're putting that in the file,
Can I take all the others and I'll just get rid of them the ones I handed on accident, so there's no
We can give
confusion?
you, we'll
wait,
keep that.
was this stamped in?
I get the ones that are stamped.
Yeah, but it's one of the ones that,
But this is the one he didn't want to submit. So
Yeah.
so can I give something back that was stamped, but
Yeah.
it inserted in error?
but is the one we're accepting stamped?
And we
That's what
have
I'm
two
asking.
stamped copies of
Great.
it. Yep.
Okay.
Good.
Mission accomplished, sir.
Thank you very much. Sorry about the confusion.
Okay, that's
Have a good
fine.
night.
Thank you.
Good luck with the store. Next, US Bank, 16 Hampton Road, storefront, window, and door signs. State your name, please.
Diana Laspisa with Morano Expediting Services, 4 Hamilton Court in Quorum, New York, 11727. We're here before you today for 2 new storefront signs. I don't have anything to submit that wasn't already submitted unless there's something that you need.
Well, it's just been submitted, so,
Do you have something you can lay out
That's-
so
she
the
says
video?
no.
Oh, no, I
Copy to that.
didn't know you meant what you had.
because we need,
Yeah.
to
I'll
have
lay
this
out.
on the public record.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
So it's to replace the Town and Country real estate signs with US Bank signs that's taking over some of the space.
But is it bigger than the US? I mean, the town, it looks bigger, right?
No, it's the
Also
same,
red, white, and blue.
yeah, no, it is the same size. I believe they're the same size.
But the
Then
font
what's-
is much bigger.
Oh, well, it's different.
So
Well,
here,
Town and Country has Town and Country and then real estate, so
in this,
where is it?
so this is the space, but that's this is small, the Town and Country sign, and your sign is a lot bigger.
Well, theirs says Town and Country and then next to it, real estate, so
Yes,
it's
but-
kind of, that's out there.
It's still bigger. The actual print, I believe.
Which sign are we considering right now? Because
The
there's 3
front.
separate applications. So
I'm
this
in the
is-
front. I'm on the first page.
The front, which would be which elevation? The south elevation?
The west.
The west elevation, okay. Because the building,
South.
south,
Yeah.
okay. Which is
This is west.
actually the building fronts on Hampton Road, so the south
back,
is the
the rear.
parking lot, yeah.
It's the gable end, that one in the middle is I think,
Okay.
the one we're talking about
The
now.
one with the trellis.
No.
The
We're
trellis
talking
would be the west
Oh, no, we're looking
elevation.
at that one now. Okay.
And Charlie, could you just zoom in on the one in the middle
So-
there?
Is it,
Do you mind?
why does it
Thank
look
you.
so big? For me, it's,
Yes.
I'm having a problem.
I guess
It's-
it's just,
10, wait a minute,
it's,
23 and a quarter shield, whatever that means.
well, that's the lettering. Yeah, the lettering is 23 and a quarter, but I believe you review it as a whole box, because it is a box sign with the letters, individual illuminated letters
Gray background.
on it.
You said illuminated letters?
Those windows have to
Oh,
be...
sorry, non-illuminated. It says at the top corner, non-illuminated.
Something
10 feet.
funny.
It's 10 feet.
Those windows above it are at least
Well, it
32,
says on there, it's
34
10
inches
feet. The
wide.
dimension's on there. What does it say on the top? 10
10
feet
feet,
10 feet
by
long
23 and a quarter tall.
All right,
to the top
is
of the
the
shield.
lettering.
Okay.
Yes.
And the total is, excuse me, 3 foot 4 inches, so 40
Yes.
inches.
is that legit?
40 inches by 10
I don't know,
not
but I'm just saying,
a
it's
code guy.
at least it's about a 10-foot wide sign based upon the proportion of the windows.
Will this sign be anywhere else in the building?
Yeah.
This sign? Yes.
For a reason.
So, yes, we're proposing on the rear elevation where the entry door is, and then on the west elevation, also replacing their Town and Country real estate sign. It just brings it a little bit closer to Hampton Road, so that if you're driving on Hampton Road, you can see that that's where US Bank is.
But that
Otherwise-
version of the sign is smaller. That version is 7 feet wide by
That sign
28
is
inches tall.
smaller, yes. They tried to mimic what was there, as far as overall size, I guess your concern was the lettering, but overall size.
Just by the sheer fact that you're highlighting the original sign, which is larger than what currently exists there. If you look there, if you look at the sign in the comparison, you see how it's highlighted in pink? That means that what's being proposed is larger than what currently is there.
The little picture,
You understand what I mean?
top left,
I mean,
right, at your top right.
yeah, the existing
So
conditions.
the red line,
So if there was an attempt to
Holes to be
replicate or
patched to make, or, okay,
Okay.
sorry, so
So
that is.
would you like to come back and try to recreate something similar to what's currently there in font and in
Well,
size?
Well, font, I mean, banks, they have their corporate,
I have font, I meant size and lettering.
yeah. I believe they wanted to propose it as is, and I believe
It
it
was
did meet
proposed, and
the.
the board just said no.
Well,
I didn't hear a no,
wait.
so that's why
'cause
I'm confused.
This faces a parking lot.
it's pretty prominent, Rob, when you drive down Hampton
It
Road.
faces the parking lot coming from Hampton Road, and it's right there.
Yeah. Coming from Hampton.
I'm not
Road.
on
No,
board.
this
We're talking
sign-
about the one on the rear right
The
now, on the
south
south facing.
elevation
This faces a
the
parking lot.
parking.
Still, it's a cute,
This
it's
is basically the
billboardish.
parking lot that goes along Hampton Road, what I'm saying. You got it.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
I'm sorry, what?
So this is the parking lot.
Right.
That's actually, you can see the actual
Yeah.
sign coming up Hampton Road.
Yes.
It is a portion
That's
of it.
not the one
in
that
the
we're
back.
talking.
No,
That's
not-
why, I think that's what the complication is.
That's
I'm
why
trying
I
to get
asked
to the
which one we're
comparison.
starting with. We're starting with the one on the rear of the building that faces south. That's the one we're talking about. So let's start there.
That's not this.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, it is.
That is, that's the one
That's the
facing
side,
south.
isn't it, Courtney?
No,
that's
it's
the
not.
south.
The side is the west elevation. I have the survey that I can give to you guys.
Say which side this is?
That's the south
Yeah, but just to show you so that, this is the
Still like
survey.
too big to me.
So this is Montauk Highway. North is here, so that's south. So
Right.
this is the sign
But
that,
why does it have to, it's still billboardish to me, it's quite
So it's at the
large.
rear of the building?
Yeah.
it's at the rear
This
of
is
the
parking
building.
lot.
This is the rear of
The
the building.
Cidarella's parking lot,
Right. Faces towards Cidarella's parking lot. So-
I still think it's too big, but it's up to the board. So,
Will there be any lanterns, adding any type of lanterns, any lighting, anything projecting to increase the focal
No.
point of the sign? So it's just the sign itself?
It's just the sign
What is the
itself.
material of the sign that's being?
It's aluminum and plexiglass, I believe.
So
Or aluminum and acrylic.
acrylic letters, aluminum framework,
Aluminum and acrylic. So this is the
it's brushed
aluminum.
aluminum with,
Yeah, this is the aluminum
so,
So,
that would be used.
yeah. So it's silver, let's face it.
And the lettering itself is probably, I mean, I don't have the exact dimensions
All
of
right.
the existing sign that's there, but the lettering, if you're focusing on the lettering, that would be consistent with, yes, that would be consistent with the Town and Country. And Town and Country Real Estate has a lot on that, their whole sign consists of lettering. Ours is a lot.
The difference, Diana, is that, and maybe you're getting this in bits and pieces, but you have a rather, by comparison to the existing Town and Country, which is very, I don't know, subdued, but I mean, it's black and white, but it's subtle. This uses red, white, and blue, very fond of red, white, and blue, but with everything else going on and the increased size, it ends up becoming more garish. So I think the comparison to the Town and Country, it's not quite apples and oranges, but maybe oranges and tangerines. Okay, so when I put it all together, it's not working for me. And it's not a matter of taste, it's a matter that it's bigger than the existing sign. It has materials that are, I think, a little bit over the top, and then with the coloration that adds to it.
I also think like the silver on this kind of traditional building, it's a bad message in a sense for our village center.
It looks a bit billboardy.
That already we can't,
I personally have no issue with the
Okay.
color, the
The font-
background. If you can reduce the sign, I'll be happy.
the font is modern,
Or the overall sign?
Overall sign.
and the font?
Well, when reducing this, the
Yeah, well, you
sign,
could
you've
just
got to
take
reduce
out
the
the
font.
silver stuff and make, Okay.
I think that's going to, over time, it's going to actually weather.
I don't care. Okay,
Settle.
so do we have,
So if you can reduce,
how are we doing on this side?
I
I'm
don't
not on,
disagree with what's being said. The sign on the back of the building really doesn't bother me, but I feel that taking the three applications together, particularly the two storefront signs, one in the west and one in the south, it's a lot of branding, and I agree the one on the west side will be quite visible, and it's just a little more, signs should be commercial at some level, but we try to stay away from billboardish signs, and different materials that are less compatible with the look and feel of the rest of the village. And I think what you're hearing on the brushed aluminum in particular is, well, you're hearing a few things. You're hearing the size a little big, and you're hearing a concern, I think, about the brushed aluminum as a different material to most signs in the area. Is that?
Well, would I be able to ask a question? Would it be possible?
Sure.
If they eliminate, I would have to discuss it, with the client, but if they were to eliminate the brushed aluminum and just have the US Bank, the way it is here, the height of the lettering here, and it would be like individual, non-illuminated channel letters, is that something that the board, it's not a very large, I get what you're saying, but compared to a lot of the signage, it's not really very large, the actual
what
lettering
other signs are you
itself.
comparing this to?
I do a bunch of signs.
Yeah, well,
It's-
not
our
in
village, it's
this
pretty big.
area.
No, I understand that, but so is the lettering,
To me,
if we
things need to
remove
get
the brushed
smaller.
aluminum?
The silver isn't good.
Is the silver like really what's, because if we eliminated the silver and just did the US Bank with that size lettering, it's a pretty,
That would
I don't
certainly be
know
better
that
for
it
me.
would be a substantially large.
Well, just the lettering on the white relief, like the building.
I think that what they mean is like plastic letters that they put on the building. Is that what you're talking about?
No,
No.
they're not plastic, they're
Whatever,
aluminum.
but there's no back. The sign, what you're saying is you want
They're
to,
flat-cut acrylic letters.
Right.
Yeah, that are
So you're saying if you-
channel letters put on. the
Would there be
building.
any backing to what you're describing, or just the letters and?
Well, I'm trying to get a feel for what the board would, it sounds like
Well,
you don't want,
surely that would be more subtle.
talk
It
about
would be.
freestanding letters.
and I don't know
we're just making that up and we shouldn't.
cost-wise if this is something that would be feasible for the applicant
Well, I
either,
would-
but I'm just trying to get
I
a
think
feel
the
so we could come
simplest-
back.
I think that there were too simple, because you're adding more resolutions to something, which complicates things even more. I think there were two resolutions that were mentioned. One was reducing, the other one was changing the material of the background, the silver.
Either,
So
right, which
well,
could
those
be-
were the two. And if you're adding more things to it, it's just going to add more to what about this, and then it becomes an A, B, and C combination. And I don't particularly like doing.
Well, I wasn't adding, I'd be completely removing the silver and everything else would be as is. That was my question, if that.
From my standpoint, if you either eliminated the background or put the letters onto a white background that matched the building somewhat, I think I would be comfortable with the size of the letters where they are right now. I don't know if that's shared by the rest of the board, but it would reduce the overall size of that sign. I wouldn't do if you did a white background, I wouldn't do it the size of this silver one, something that just held the letters or freestanding letters. Even at this size, I think I would be comfortable. If there's a way to bring them down a little bit on the west side, I think that's a concern too, that because it's more visible from the road, we want people to be able to find you, but we do like to not have a billboard effect for signs in the village. So if you think they might be willing to entertain eliminating the background entirely to have freestanding letters.
Either that or change it, like you said, to the white.
Right.
If the letters were a little smaller, I'd be on board.
Yeah.
Just a little smaller. It just seems to be, I think part of it is the actual font makes the letters look big because they're thick, but that's their brand, so
Yeah,
I get that.
unfortunately, you can't.
I just don't think it needs to be that big, that's all, and it certainly doesn't need that silver. So I think they're gonna have to come back with another plan for this particular one. This is the,
South elevation, the rear. of the building. And I would assume your
So I
comments
have-
would be the same for
For
the
the west.
west.
Under the,
Yes.
what is this application called? Because under the agenda, it says storefront, window, and door signs.
Right, but there's three different applications. This
That's what I'm
entry
asking.
actually covers three different applications, I believe. There are
Right,
three
so what
separate.
is this part of this one?
This is
Should
the
really
front
be
door.
2 wall signs and a door.
This is the west side?
This is the front door on Hampton Road.
Right, but what is the one we're discussing now?
No.
The-
This is the west.
I'm not asking for the,
It
I'm
would be the
asking.
storefront, the
It is
south.
the storefront, so you're doing the
here.
south as the storefront?
Well, because the south is, they don't front on Hampton Road, they're at the back of the
That's
building.
entry door.
Yeah.
So that's technically their storefront, but it's really the rear of the
I
building.
hear you, okay.
So this is going to go on.
And there as well as.
So I don't think, should we, so they're going to have to do something about that one, because I don't think that's, are we in agreement that we're not
This particular
accepting
one
the
they're coming back
particular
with, right?
one that's been put into us? Okay, so
Coming
let's
back with
move
it.
ahead to the
You
window.
have to close this one and then go to the next one.
Well, it's all under one.
Yeah, but they're separate applications,
Yes, they are.
Oh, they are?
They're separate applications.
Three applications.
So we're adjourning to, are you
Yes, I
asking
mean-
us to adjourn
I
the
believe I am.
storefront sign
I
until
believe
our
I have
next
to.
meeting?
So I'll make a motion that we accept the applicant's request to adjourn the application for the south-facing storefront sign for US Bank.
Okay.
Second.
Aye.
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 Okay, next, window, which is the next one you have?
Well, I'm going to take your comments for the west elevation as well,
I
because
think
that's a
that's smart.
similar
West.
sign.
West.
So
and
would you like
it
to
would be
request an
weird for-
adjournment for the west side
Yes.
storefront? I'm going to make a motion that we accept the applicant's request to adjourn the application for the west-facing storefront sign for US Bank.
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
And now the door
Aye.
sign.
Aye.
And the
So-
door sign.
And
So
the-
now
The
we're
door's on the south-facing
on the
side.
south,
Right.
yes, which is the door that leads direct, the only entrance from that building into their space.
Okay, so that says
Charlie, that's the last one, if you can pick that up so people can see.
mortgage. Oh, mortgages?
No silver.
US Bank Home Mortgage. It's just going to be vinyl, that's,
Decal, it's a
Yeah.
decal for the window.
Decal on the door,
And
right?
it's on the
Correct.
door.
I don't have a problem with
No.
that. Does anyone?
Nope.
Have you seen it?
Yes.
Yep.
The public,
Any public comment on the door sign for US Bank, 16 Hampton Road? I have a
I'll
motion.
make a motion to approve the door decal sign for US Bank.
Second.
Aye.
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 do you
The
want
sign
to
with
keep
mine.
this, or we don't even know if
Is
this
this, no,
is?
If you're going to maybe come back with something else, let's wait till then.
Okay, thank you.
thanks.
You're welcome.
Was there another one that we approved? that I Can I get that Charleston Shoe Company back?
Do you want that back?
Yeah, I might want to sign it.
I love that place.
No, I don't know, Rob. Too much trouble. Next, Ted's East End Market, 264 Hampton Road, 2 window signs. This isn't the right one. This is my problem. with this.
Those are the, yeah.
Right, but this isn't,
Those are the two, those are two copies of the ones we approved. The other one is stapled to the application, that was the original. So you can put a slash through it and say not approved.
could it, my pen work better? No. This wasn't really stamped into the, this wasn't, okay.
It's stamped on the back. They're both
Yeah,
stamped
but
on the
it
back.
has a stamp for the building inspector, for the sign inspector, which wasn't done. Tell me. Okay, so I don't know if I can sign it. I can't sign it because it's not stamped. I'll put a note. Needs to be stamped. Sorry, secretarial work.
Housekeeping.
It's done.
No, it's not stamped with
that's that.
approved kind of thing.
The one,
Okay.
the new picture wasn't.
I'm sorry. Please introduce yourself.
I'm Tom Anderson. I own Ted's East End Market.
Oh, nice to meet you. Okay. Do you have good, you've done
It's the
everything you were
window
supposed to.
decals, right?
Yes.
These are the windows.
So you're changing the red boar's head to
Well,
black?
Yeah, I decided to go black.
I think it's prettier, actually. Here it is.
Yes.
Was the red ever approved? I mean, I hate to be like this, but
Well, at first I was going to go with the burgundy because
that's not
the,
the question. Okay, let's just move on.
I think that's fine.
Anybody got a problem with it?
Is Boar's Head already on there?
Yes, it's
It's already, no, but I'm saying
is it already on there?
the existing sign?
no.
Why is the red thing
Well,
there?
the reason why I want to do the signs in the first place is because I'll have people come in, but I've gone by this place on it countless times, and I never knew what you guys were, because it says Ted's East End Market, but they don't know that we're a deli, that we have sandwiches.
Amazing egg sandwiches.
Right.
I'm
And so we kind of need to
surprised.
broaden our appeal a little
Have
bit.
A big reputation for egg sandwiches, actually.
The only question I have is this, and it's not so much the design, but what's the board's, in the past, position on basically national advertising in the sense of Boar's Head being featured on there?
What's the difference between an organization that has a name?
Well, it's his purveyor, which I assume is paying partially or fully for the signage,
Yeah.
which is great, Tom. I don't,
Yeah.
there's no issue there. But as a village, is that something that we have either condoned in the past or have ruled against?
Well, like the Blue Mercury, don't they say what kind of makeup, or is there are a lot of Blue Mercuries, and my memory may be wrong. Do we have other signs? I'm not sure about that, actually.
It's a
Good
decal on the
question.
window. It's replacing a decal that's.
I'm saying it's not.
But
I
there
was just-
isn't a decal
Like I
there
said,
now.
it's not, it has
Signature
nothing to do with the design.
You
It
said it-
really,
That in is red, I didn't understand.
I know
it
this is,
really is a matter of, I was asking about policy,
yeah,
not design.
yeah, and I don't know the policy. I would just say this location isn't the heart of the village. It feels a bit like a roadside deli, almost, outside of the village. It has some of that feel. And next to a gas station, there's a commercial feel to the district. I get your concern. It doesn't bother me in this location.
Okay.
It hits me as not as much of a concern for me in this particular location.
I think that's a good point, actually.
You're right across the street from HR Block, and it's a
Yes.
commercial district,
It's on the way out.
but it's not downtown.
Right, okay. I accept
I have
that.
no
Does anyone else,
Those
does
are all the
anyone
reasons
from
why.
the public have anything to say?
Are you okay with it?
I think the part about the Boar's Head was an interesting point, but I don't know. It's a sandwich,
Well, people will come in and they'll
I'm
say,
good with it.
do you have boar's head? And I was
You're
like, well, that's all we
kidding.
have.
Are you
Is it-
sure?
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah.
Definitely.
Well, I will make a motion that we approve the window decal signage for Ted's East
I'll
End
second
Market.
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
Curtis beat her
Aye.
to the... Susan?
Nay.
Susan's an A.
Sorry. But you win.
Thank you.
Okay,
You
good
can-
luck.
You can take
Okay,
that.
okay, thank you.
Thanks a lot, good luck.
Next is New York Pilates.
Ooh.
Is there anyone here for New York Pilates? This was put in at the last minute, and now,
We just okay, because
but it's
so
a fairly
simple.
straightforward. How big is it? Can you pick that up, Charlie? Please?
Just see the dimensions, sorry. I'll lean forward. 5.76 feet wide and 65.65 feet high, so that's about
not a
7
killer.
inches high.
I have no problem with it.
What is the material of the sign?
Okay.
This just came in today. Does it describe materials? And
It's
here's-
Fetterman's building, triangular.
It actually doesn't describe the materials, Curtis.
I
There's
didn't
no...
see it up there either.
So,
There's no
well,
description.
don't we need the
Charlie,
materials
here's a
described?
picture of what it would
Or
look
not?
like.
Feel you can make a
proposed in the
decision
building.
without it,
It's-
you can,
it
you
looks-
don't need it, but
I can make a
documents the
decision
folder.
without it if we stipulate that it has to be as shown. How's that? Do you have a problem with that?
I don't.
They don't know what's shown.
Approving it.
Well, it's on that building where there are all these indented little doors.
Well, I
You
know the
fit-
location, yeah.
the- Around the
That's another
fitness
reason why I
factory.
asked, because is it plastic, is it wood?
Does it matter?
It If it's on wood, it looks like it's painted white to match the building with black letters.
Let's show him more.
I think the application requires that materials be listed, so.
Yeah.
That
Okay.
was part of the application
Okay.
process.
Okay,
I
so
love
we,
to push on applications as well, but we got to be consistent.
okay,
Gonna be-
so let's adjourn this to our next meeting, or how do we do this?
In the absence of an applicant,
We
by
just
your
don't
own
even-
motion, adjourn it to the next meeting.
Okay.
Is there jurisdiction, I presume?
So moved.
Second that.
Aye.
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 So this is adjourned too. Wow, that wasn't a very successful.
Are we going to send them a letter saying they need to send in the dimension?
We'll have-
I mean, the materials?
Have
No,
Diane call in there.
that's too much
Try
work.
and confirm.
All right, next. Written decisions.
I don't have a written decision prepared this evening for 24 or 28 Gin Lane. They will be ready for the next meeting,
Is the,
22nd.
22nd.
May I ask, given the extended time this has been going on, will everyone be here on the 22nd?
I plan to be,
It's the day after Easter, right?
Yes, day after Easter.
I'll be here.
I'm a possible. I just want to be honest. I am a possible. I'll
Oh.
try my best, but can I vote by proxy?
This is really
Yeah?
unfair to the applicant.
I know that's,
This is really unfair to the applicant.
John,
This is
the board,
really
I'm sure, will do the best they can, but these things happen. This thing has been pending for 3 years, and
That's my point.
council
Yeah,
is trying to
so-
do its best to write the appropriate decision based upon my schedule last
Christina, will
week
you be
with
here
another
on the
matter.
22nd? Will you be here? Jeff, you'll be here?
John, it's on my schedule.
Susan?
I've never missed a meeting,
No, I know
Mr.
you
Bennett.
haven't.
Mr. Bennett, I'll do my best.
Thank you.
I'll
Okay,
do my best.
we're trying. I actually do hear you. I understand you. But life goes on, so let's hope it works out for the 22nd. Next, David C. Novak Revocable Trust.
In the file, you have a decision approving the application for the 2 pairs of driveway gates
Not the copy, but
as
the original
submitted.
from the file. Sorry, I was talking. I'm sorry. Has everyone read the decision? Okay.
We'd like these. I think these were well-liked gates. These are
Yeah,
the
they
ones
were,
with
you
the
could
spindle.
see through them very well.
They had a lot of
Okay.
visibility.
Motion to approve the written decision for David C. Novak Revocable Trust.
So moved?
So moved.
Second?
Second. Aye.
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 I don't think was that heard last?
It was,
Yeah,
yes.
so I abstain, I was not here.
Next, Beechwood Latch LLC, 101 Hill Street, demolish existing structures north of the Latch Building.
This is obviously closed for decision. I do not have that ready for this evening
Okay.
based upon the following circumstance, and that is that in the planning board file, the planning board at its last meeting approved this site plan. In the file, however, from I think it's November 16, there is a incomplete agreement between the Office of Parks and Historic Preservation and the applicant regarding the, at that time, the proposal to move the Latch building. And there were several conditions to that regarding the potential demolition of these structures, which are now before you. I did check with a representative of the owner today to ask what the status of that was. Had it been fulfilled? Was the agreement ever actually entered into? He was unsure. I will be liaising with a representative of the applicant between now and the next meeting to determine how we'll handle this. If there are things that need to be done, we can work around that. If it has been settled, then that's would end it. And if there's something that needs to be done that we can make a condition of the decision, then we'll consider doing that.
Yeah.
Someone here to speak.
But I have a question. I thought, so was there, was my understanding the latch building would not be moved?
That's
going to be
it, that's the
moved.
point.
Oh, hi.
I don't, good
Please
evening,
introduce
David
yourself.
Gilmartin for the applicant Beechwood. I believe that agreement's no longer necessary since we decided not to move the latch
Yeah,
building.
we just, if that's the case, then Dave, would you
Yeah, we'll follow up with that.
check with me on that, or let me know, and then we'd need a sign-off from Office of Parks.
Okay. But again, I don't think it's
Yeah,
necessary.
we don't know, it just was there, and the agreement that was in the file was not complete, so
Okay.
we're just trying to document it.
We'll do that.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, we
Yes.
can take this on later, but who is the Office of Parks and why are they involved?
The building was, I think, Zach, on the state historic.
It's listed on the National Register.
Yeah,
On
it's
the National
historic.
Register? Okay.
Well, all
state.
of the contributing resources in the Village Historic District are listed on the state and national register,
Okay.
So just,
and this is one.
does this require an adjournment,
No,
or we're
it's
just
just-
not touching it?
it's just a holdover. We
Okay,
don't need it.
next. Driveway gates non-historic. Michael Brunestin, is that right?
Pretty close.
No.
Bernstein.
Brunstein.
Bernstein.
Brunstein, 99 Flying Point Road, driveway gates. And you are Michael
That's me, yes.
Brunestein?
That's me.
Okay, good.
Do you have something
Posting
you
and
can lay
mailing?
down?
I actually did not know that I need to present something, so I
Oh,
didn't
we
bring.
can't touch it.
But you have the.
He's posting and mailing.
Okay,
He's
I
wondering, he doesn't-
presented it, I submitted it all on time.
okay.
So just can bring a copy.
That's fine. We just need to have it. Otherwise, we don't have jurisdiction,
these are surveys.
which we don't need.
Can we give him this copy to let him present off of, so that it can be picked up by videography?
Sure.
Let me find, sorry, materials are different. Okay.
If you want it better. So don't need-
Yep.
We'll need that back.
Yep.
Want it.
Okay, so this is a do I need this in this?
That way, that's good.
Oh, that was good. Okay.
Toward us. Fabulous.
This is a representation of the
copy.
gates.
Oh, okay.
And you can see one pillar, well, you can't see the pillar sketched in, I have that on another, actually I have that right here, that's helpful.
Stone.
Yes, so these are going to be 2 stone pillars, one on either side of the gates. They are 92 inches, or 90, actually 3 inches high, a little less than, yeah, thank you. This is the material that we're proposing to use, which is the same material we're used in the back of our house around the barbecue and around the foundation. So it'll be consistent.
And the gates are how tall?
The gates are, as shown on here,
Doesn't seem tall.
well, I think the maximum is 8 feet, which is 96 inches. The gates are less than that. They're shown as less than that by about 4
Weren't they
inches.
6 something?
At the ends and in the middle, they're considerably less. Sorry.
There we go.
Pardon me. So the idea that the highest point of the gates will actually be at the pillars, and the tops of the gates will be slightly less than the tops of the pillars, which will be slightly less than 8 feet. The lighting, rather than a lot of pillars I've seen or piers I've seen around town have a lantern on top, or we don't have that. We're going to have strip LED downlighting around the underside of the capstone.
Uh-oh, what? Do you have a?
Is that bad? I thought that was good.
Do we have a any,
Well, that's what I wrote right here on the submission.
I'm sure you did. Do you have the actual fixture or anything we can look at? What's
It's
the
a,
wattage?
it's a strip that'll get applied to the surface of the bottom of the stone.
It's flexible, and that is what it looks like on the internet.
But I had a question about the lighting. Is it shielded at all? In other words, will you, from the side, will you see that? I've worked with this material before, so
It's
there's a little dimension to it. There's about 1/8 of an inch dimension
Correct.
to it.
Correct.
And from the side, you see, set under that post, you would see those, as opposed to the light effect underneath. You'll actually see the LEDs along that tape.
Well, you won't see the side. There will be no horizontal projection of the light. The light is only downward. So there's a channel that's mounted to the underside, and then the lighting is inserted in the
So
channel.
you're going to channel into the stone
No.
cap.
We may, but we hadn't planned on that. But the point is, there's a plastic or metal channel, I believe, that's U-shaped, and an inverted U would be affixed to the underside of the capstone.
Okay, so that detail's
Lighting
not
goes in
shown.
there, and then a grill goes over top of that, which a diffuser which pushes the light straight down. So you won't see it if you drive up, you won't see it shining at you. You'll see it shining down on the surface.
And how bright is it?
It's LED. It's very low
Well, there's
luminosity.
LED and there's LED. I mean, there's bright and there's not bright. We are trying not have intense light anywhere,
I
on people's
don't want-
houses or on the
absolutely.
street.
Usually say 25 watt.
Well, he has to translate it into, first of all,
It's different for LEDs. It's lumens. We
I
should
know.
be talking in lumens. But you're lighting dark stone.
Yes. Well, it's not that dark, actually. If you can see this, the picture here, there's actually some whitish and bluestone. It's sort of a bluestone gray, white, and blue mix.
The detail on the channel just doesn't show up anywhere on the plans. So is that going to be painted gray to match the stone?
It is
or-
gray. It is gray, yes. That's what the lighting consultant told us. He said, I asked him if we should channel it into the other side, underside. He said, you won't even see it. It'll look against the stacked stone. It will be invisible.
So if I can make a comment, that street, you won't be the first gate, but there aren't a lot of gates on that street. That oven by itself is not a reason to deny the application. But most of the gates and the pillars are rather understated on that street. There may be one or two lights, if I recall, but they don't come to mind. So with what are tall pillars at 8 feet, and the stone, and the dramatic, however light it may be, it is dramatic lighting. I think it's going to create a level of formality on what otherwise is not necessarily a formal road of estates. They're beautiful houses, so that's not a negative comment. But I think it creates a more dramatic impression, especially at the beginning of that street, which is where this is located. So I'm okay with the stone. I'd like to see a smaller pillar, but 8 feet is okay, but not with the lighting.
not lit.
Yeah, the lighting, I think, adds a level of drama to it that I think is incompatible, or at least surely not harmonious with the rest of the gates on the street.
Could you look, I think there's a photograph there of the one directly across the street, which is got a large lantern on the top. So my lighting
The comment
is
I'm gonna
specifically
make
designed to be
is
less
that
dramatic.
I agree with you. Lanterns that we've seen thus far they've been more dramatic because they're illuminating the open space
Right.
rather than projecting downward to the ground.
That's what we're
and
trying to do.
focusing it's basically just identifying the pillars
address
itself
and-
and the address. Usually it's just you probably have your
Correct.
address on there or some type of marker that shows where you are. So you're focusing just in that area, whereas
Correct.
if you put a lantern on top,
Right.
you're illuminating open space. You're literally creating a lit hub.
Right.
And I think that's more dramatic than what they're proposing
Well,
here.
it's a good point, well taken. But then we get into the level of lighting and the lumens.
That's something that we can deliberate over, dimming maybe the projected light, but I think the style you're presenting is actually
We
reasonable. and
tried to go
acceptable.
for the low lumens, we wanted just a little bit of light.
Right, we're trying to
We
make
wanted
it
to be more subtle than the ones across the
So
street.
the part of the approval probably would be, I'm not going to say probably, it would be a level, and that's on LED, so we would have to identify what those grades are, and that would be a part of the approval. If it exceeds that, then you know you're out of compliance, and therefore.
And the level is 25 watts incandescent, and we
The
have to get
equivalent of
equivalent?
25 watt
watts,
incandescents.
Okay, we can
typically,
figure that out.
on each side. So if you could have maybe, even wherever you're buying it from can give you a wattage equivalent. We should be doing this in lumens, but it's not how people talk. So whatever the lumens are from a typical 25 watt light bulb, if you're at or below that.
I'm sure that would be easy enough to figure out. We could commit to doing that, for sure.
So how do we do this?
You feel you can,
Considering that there was a, quote, lighting designer who didn't bother to specify.
Do you want a sample of the light? I mean, what is your...
I don't know. I don't like the whole, I'm not down with it. It's like a little too much. The lighting of the pillar without knowing what we're talking about here? Because I've been past
Well, is there
lighting on
favorable,
pillars.
what is the consensus of the board?
So Rob was saying if we could get a kind of caveat that it would, that whatever this LED is, it has to be the equivalent or less than 25 watts on each side. So we would have like, can we write that on the plan, or who writes that on the plan?
Well, I think
Seems
the
a
problem
little-
with that's going to be enforcement. I mean,
Right.
you know, what are you
Alright.
really communicating to the building department? If you want to see a sample of this, that I would think
what
would be
we'd
the better
like
way to
is-
do it.
The lighting person, whoever you've hired, should specify. How's that?
Well, then request such specification.
Could we make it a condition that they submit a letter or specifications that demonstrate that the lighting from the
Then
LED
you lose control of the
No.
application.
Okay, so I'm not, because it's so amorphous in terms of the lighting and how bright it is, and
Sir, is it possible to bring in a sample of this?
I don't have a sample. We
I
only look
didn't
at
ask
it
you
in
if
the
you did.
catalog,
Is it
but
possible to bring one in?
I would imagine so. I don't have one in my possession, but we could buy one.
but I mean, the person you hired, your lighting consultant, surely has been through this process before.
I'd love to see a sample, unless we could see it against the stone, I'm
But we
not sure
still
how
wouldn't,
meaningful.
we need to know how bright it is.
Understand. So for me, what would matter most would be being something maybe from the lighting designer or from the supplier, just stating what the output is from these LEDs and demonstrating that it's no
Going
more than the
down.
lumens that would come from a 25-watt bulb on each side. If we can get that information in writing from a lighting designer.
Okay, yeah, we'll be able to do that.
I agree.
I had a separate question, just because it wasn't clear to me. The circles at the bottom of the gate, is that the same material as the staves, just wound into a circle, the 2-inch
Yes, it's
white aluminum?
white brushed aluminum.
Okay, and the same 2-inch dimension for, do you know, or, I think the
2
staves
inches
are-
of the staves?
Well, the staves are 2-inch square, so I'm wondering
Yes.
if it's the same material just turned into a circle in each case, because it's a single line, looks like it's hand-drawn in there.
Yeah, those are, they might be a smaller, they could be slightly smaller.
By the way, a
Okay.
25-watt bulb is equivalent to 375 lumens.
Okay, so
And
this is
I'm-
only 108.6 per foot.
Well, but then you
We'll-
have to,
we'll
but then
figure
it's-
that out.
then I assume it's
We'll
cumulative.
get
You
the
know what,
letter.
you better have your lighting guy do it, because
Yeah, yeah, no
I'm
problem.
not,
That's their skill set, so.
The only thing that caught my eye in the design is that, and maybe this is just an issue of drafting, but on the 2 open spaces on each side of the gate, that's on the outside, you have less of a space. You have sort of half of the 6-inch spacing that you have in the others. And so you have that same circle in there, but it becomes an oval. I know this is a small detail, but
I think it's not going to be an oval.
I hope not.
I think what happened here was that we asked for the circles
Yep.
on an prefabricated, already, sort of off-the-shelf type gate.
Yep.
And they just drew them in.
Okay.
And said, they will provide those for us.
But
so.
the gate is prefabricated, or they?
It's a stock gate from this company. I'm not sure.
If
whether
there's a
it's
way that they could make
prefabricated.
the open spaces even and the circles, all circles?
I certainly would like it to be
I think he's saying
even.
he doesn't want a gate with an
Okay.
uneven.
No, I don't want
hear you.
ovals on the ends, no.
Okay.
Certainly not.
So are you asking us to adjourn this application until our next meeting where you will bring the lighting information to us?
I could, or I could go with Mr. Coburn's suggestion to provide a written,
I think our council has told us that
You have to bring that
you
back
have
to
to
the
bring,
next
we just
meeting.
can't.
Okay.
It's too hard to control, and that is our job. I'm
okay,
sorry.
so what exactly would you like me to bring at the next
I
meeting?
think you should, if I were you, I would talk to the lighting consultant and ask him to give you the specifications of the lighting or a tear sheet from where they buy it.
I have it right here.
Well, Jen, we don't have it to hand out, so just.
And how many sections, it looks 2, is that what you have? Whatever, it's not specific, and we need to know how bright it is, how bright combined, if there are 2 sections, and what it is. Most people bring in like a
Okay.
copy of a tear sheet out of a book because you're buying this.
But if it's going to be calculated, by the way, on linear footage of the tape, which is how it's usually done, then we'll need to know sort of how many linear
Yeah.
feet of tape are used on each one.
I think a lighting consultant this couldn't be the first time they've been asked for
I'm
this
sure, yes.
information. I don't want to be a burden on you.
No,
but
that's fine.
it
Just tell me what it
seems
is and we'll get it
Okay,
done.
Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, so would you like us to adjourn until the 22nd,
Yes, I would.
the day after Easter, as we've been told?
I understand. Will you be able to
Okay.
be here on the 22nd?
I think so. If
I
we
will
can,
not.
can we submit this in writing and we have to be here?
Oh,
So one copy goes back up.
Oh, yeah, that,
Right.
usually someone comes, but
Thank you.
this, or yours.
to explain,
Okay.
If we submit the tear sheet with this,
it has to be,
down to
it has to be,
Well, somebody
it
has
has
to
to be
present it.
public. This
Okay.
is it's legal that it's shown in public and that we discuss it in public.
Understood.
That's the
I mean, you could have your lighting expert come in here, too.
yeah.
okay.
Okay, we'll figure something out.
I will make a motion
Architect?
that we accept the applicant's request, Michael Brunestein's request for an adjournment to our next meeting for 99 Flying Point Road driveway gate.
Second.
Aye.
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 Moving ahead. Driveway gates historic. Ioannis Zumas, 10 Captain's Neck Lane, driveway gates. Hello.
Hi.
Is that posting and mailing has to go through her? Come on.
Nick Zumas.
Do you have, okay, we have one. Are there two of these? Are there two plans in the, okay. Great. Your name?
Nick Zumas.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
So this is your gate, and it's,
Yeah, it's all versatile AZAC material, white material. The columns are 4'11". The top of the gates will be at 6 feet. The spindles are all 2x2. All the border material, I believe, is 1x4. I don't know, is there any other questions you have?
Spacing, what's the spacing between the pickets?
4 inches.
Sorry?
4 inches.
So it represents greater than 50% transparency?
Yes.
I don't have any issue with this. I did have a question. It's really a site plan question, but I'm just wondering about how people get out of this driveway once they've driven in. I'm a little concerned about people backing out of it. It's not a good issue for us, but
We have, I don't have a survey with me, but approximately 28 to 32 feet to pull into the garage on that side. So you can turn towards the garage. We have a turnaround area behind the garage. It goes back another 20 feet or so to back out, and you can pull out forwards.
I think it's not going to be used that way. So just something to tuck away for other reasons. It's a concern, but because I'm not sure everyone's going to want to drive all the way back there to turn around. I think you're going to have people backing through these gates.
We originally had proposed
They're
to have a
wide.
turnaround area on the front side,
They're
but
backing
you guys, I don't know if it was ARB or somebody wanted more grass at that point, so we had to eliminate that turnaround area.
All right. Well, I don't have any issue with the gate.
What is the status of the residence on this property?
It's pretty, almost complete.
No, it's new, of a new building?
New construction, yep.
Recently planted. Looks nice.
Thank you.
The plant.
so, any
No, I
comments?
have no objections, but it's interesting. This is a larger property than a smaller gate on a larger property than what we saw previously. One has nothing to do with the other, but it's interesting sometimes that on the larger properties, we see more understated gates.
Is there anyone from the public who would like to comment on the gates on 10 Captain's Neck Lane? All right, so,
I make a motion that we approve the application.
no, we have to
Oh, we have
close
to-
it
Sorry.
for written decision.
We close for written decision by council the application for Jonas Vilmas at 10 Captain's Neck Lane. That's the motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Aye.
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 Thank you. So the written decisions at next meeting?
It will be.
I don't need to be,
Maybe.
so I don't need to be present for that. That'll just
No,
go
you
directly to
don't
the
have to be
building clerk?
present for the written decision, sir.
Okay.
Pretty sure Does the building department inform? No, you have to call them up the next day, okay?
All right, thank you.
Next, Harewood Cottage LLC, 2 Fairley Road, driveway pillars. Do we have, if this is on a private road, I guess it can be seen from, is there no jurisdiction?
Don't know.
I
Find
sent
that out from the
pictures.
applicant.
From what?
From the applicant. Has anybody seen that?
Yes,
Yeah.
Is it visible?
yes.
Yeah,
It is visible, it's the first. Okay,
Here's the
sorry.
affidavit.
There's like
not at all.
jurisdictional things, so it's posting and mailing? That's
Yes,
it.
I sent it out.
Great.
So, my name is Heather Leeds, and our address is 2 Fairley Road. It's the first house on the right as you come off of Gin Lane. We were seeking to put 2 white pillars at the beginning of the driveway. They are 6 feet tall, and here's a drawing of it here. So,
Could you show that so we can see it?
Just
You
push
turn that around 180
Can you turn
degrees,
it toward
please.
us?
Yep,
'Cause he
keep going.
needs to
There you
see
go.
it. That's good.
The camera's going to get it from right up there.
is that good?
Thank
Okay.
you.
And as it states here, they're 16 by 16 inches. It's just pillars. They're white ASAC, being built by Walpole. So I would figure that they are sort of a state of, standard for work that's done here. So I want to make sure it falls within your, what you like to do. What else can I say about it?
I'm not sure you have to say anything else.
Well, are there any land,
Yeah, there will be lanterns
Are
on
there
it.
lanterns?
There are.
Yes.
Do you have
yeah.
anything?
So
It's not in the,
after,
Oh, here we go.
yeah, it's 2.
Do you know what the
Well, after hearing about the interest in
light
having,
bulb type, LT3?
that's the base. Does it give a wattage? Actually, you can choose the wattage. So.
So there are 3 candle-like lights in here?
Would you consider frosting the lenses?
yeah, sure.
What?
I was going to do a seated
I
marine,
don't like the frosty ones, but that's me.
but I'm happy to.
I'm perfectly fine with the clear ones, but we need to know.
I brought an alternative in case that doesn't
No,
work for
maybe,
you.
so the product code is,
3 bulbs in there, correct?
yeah, so
3
they'd have
bulbs
to be
and-
like,
8 watts each or less.
well, that's like in your refrigerator, isn't it?
It's a little dimmer than that, each bulb. But together, it'll be the equivalent to about a refrigerator light bulb.
Miss Homack. Is there a way to ascertain how bright this is going to be?
Well, it depends on the bulbs they choose.
Yeah, I know.
Which gets mitigated if you just frost them.
I don't like the look.
Well, I mean, you're in a private road,
You can see it from Gin Lane. It's the first thing.
so the first thing you want to see is 2 illuminated pillars.
It's not up to, what, unfairly?
In that neighborhood, yes.
is there a code related to the wattage, or is that just a policy?
Precedent we've had, I
Precedent
think.
we've-
It's not in the code.
Because if these are 3
And
candelabras,
the applicant is saying that it's okay. Rob, what do you think about the unfrosted?
I think unfrosted can give some mixed signals. I hear what you're saying about reducing the light, but it also makes it look a little more modern, and they're looking, it's a less traditional look.
Frosted?
And frosted.
Yeah,
And
I don't think it's
they're-
the
I
right
think they're
look for
looking
that
for a
lantern.
traditional look, which fights against
I
the
brought an
frosting. But I
alternative
appreciate that
in
it,
case that doesn't work for you.
Does it say the wattage on the alternative?
This one is a 1 bulb.
Yeah, does it say?
It does say 60.
up
Six?
to, up to
Up to
60.
60.
Yeah, up to 60. So I could put a smaller wattage in
You
that.
could. You
Yes.
could put a 25 watt.
Yes, I could.
Do you love this one?
I'm very flexible.
Let's do that one.
This one, I just printed off my computer. Oh, here you go. I would want it in a dark brass. It wouldn't be that color.
Oh, okay.
And once again, it would be 1 bulb so that I could be within the sort of
What's the size?
what you want for the standard for our neighborhood.
So the color would be more like the color
Dark
of the
grass.
original,
Yeah.
the original
Yeah.
submission?
Yeah, I just couldn't do that on my
If you
computer.
reduce it down to one bulb and you're putting out 25
Yes.
watt bulb,
But
I think
would you then want it to be frosted as
No.
well?
No, you
Okay,
wouldn't have to
thank
do
you.
that.
I was thinking seeded marine, so it's just kind of
It's fine.
more,
It's just
traditional.
it's just 3 bulbs in one.
Finish.
yeah, the dark
circle
one.
it,
Yes,
maybe.
that
Okay,
one.
we're going to circle that. And then
I
we're
think
gonna
it
write
also
25
shows up in the
watts on
bar
here
what
somewhere.
the selection is, though I couldn't get the image to mirror what
No,
What's
it's fine.
maximum?
I think reducing the
per each.
amount of bulbs that are in lanterns
will
Is that
help.
good?
will help.
Can we just,
Definitely.
can we ask you to put this down the same way facing us so that Charlie can pick it up
Yes.
briefly? I think we're going to vote on this.
There you
Or
go.
we would close it for written decision.
And the color on that is going to be the circled color in the middle
Yeah,
for members of the public.
not that bright one.
Whatever it is, it's so close to the ocean that whatever you think it's going to be.
It's in the
Done
weather.
immediately.
It's going to be different later, but that's okay.
Public.
It's fine.
Any other
No,
suggestions?
I'm fine.
No.
Any
Again,
public comments?
again, the same point, bigger houses, bigger
No,
properties.
this is a small house.
They're just posts with lights.
More understated.
Is there anyone
Presentations to the-
from the
to the
public
view.
who would like to discuss these posts, lighted posts? All right.
So I will make the motion that we refer for written decision from council, the application for Harewood Cottage at 2 Fairleigh Road with the replacement fixture, which is a single bulb fixture and has a glass chimney, clear glass chimney, and a maximum wattage per post of 25 watts.
Yes.
Great.
That's the motion.
In the color circled.
In the finish circled, the finish that is circled. That's the motion.
I second.
Aye.
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 Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank
We're
you.
going to
Excuse me,
take
what is the
that back.
status of this house? Is this a new house?
No, that's the end.
May I take that?
The north,
Do you mind putting
Which
my
piece?
corner? The top one.
Northwest corner,
is
yes.
it a contributing asset?
I don't think so.
No, it's part stucco and there's pear trees outside.
It's a wood shingle,
Right.
yellow,
When was the house
with white
built,
trim.
Heather?
I'm sorry?
When was the house built?
I think it was back in the 50s.
All right, so it's not a contributing asset.
Yeah.
It didn't, right.
Thanks.
Good luck, thanks.
Thank you.
Next, we have a referral from the planning board for landscaping at 134 Murray Lane, 134 Murray Lane LLC.
So, for the applicant, John Bennett,
Thank you.
let me hand up some emails back and forth, and I'll explain, I'll talk to you about those, but let me tell you how we got here, just to refresh your recollection.
Well, did you get to an agreement with the?
Yes.
Okay, so maybe we don't need to read all this.
Excuse me? No, I just want to make sure that everyone's aware. You did approve the architecture on this house, and we moved it along, giving the primary jurisdiction over the landscaping to the planning board, but you did want to have a review of it. So what you'll see in the emails are Elizabeth Condren's email of March 25. Thank you all for meeting with me and listening to my concerns, which the revised plan seems to address nicely, which is fine. The only question that Ms. Condren had was the size or location of 3 crepe myrtles in the northwest corner by the tennis court. What we did, backing up a little bit, we did add these 5 plane trees at Ms. Condren's specific request. So what you're looking at is what Ms. Condren saw.
John, I'm sorry, could you just orient us
Sure.
to the...
The ocean,
Okay.
Ms. Condren to
thank
the
you very
west,
much.
and
Okay.
then this is the tennis court that's to the north. So the only question Ms. Condren had was the location of the 3 crepe myrtles. And those are, if you have the plan, they're LN18, LN16, and LN16. She was concerned that they might, because the way crepe myrtles grow over the property line. So I also have for you an email from Ed Hollander describing how these plane trees were at Ms. Condren's specific request, so we've added those. We explained that the crepe myrtles, back to the crepe myrtles, which are Ms. Condren's only concern, was that they grow to 20 to 25 feet tall with a width of 12 to 15 feet over many years. So if she would prefer, and if you would prefer, what we'll do is we'll pull these crepe myrtles back 10 feet.
I don't really, this is...
That's between them, really.
She should take it. I've looked at the plan. It seems like it's pretty generously planted, I would say. And if so now I think our role is to simply look at it and say, yes, we think this is good.
The planning board, for whatever, not that you're constrained by that in your advisory role, but the planning board had no issues with it.
Right, but I don't have an issue, and I'm sorry that the crepe myrtles might branch out, but I think that it's not really a big deal.
Crepe myrtles don't grow like oak trees out to the side. They will become sort of flute-shaped, like a flute glass, and the property owner there can always cut it back at the property line, and in fact, crepe myrtles like that. So I don't have any problem with them where they are.
Okay.
All right, does anyone have any problem with this on this board?
No, I think it's not our role to...
It was our role.
Well, but the issue of the placement of the crepe myrtles is between neighbors. And while fences make good neighbors, that's not our role.
Right, I agree with that. But on the general architecture plan?
It's a heck of a lot of planting.
The Ed Hollander landscaping plan? So
I think we should also just commend the applicant.
Yes, thank you for the process. Is there anyone in the public who wants to address this issue? All right, so
make a resolution that you just approve the plans, and then I will communicate that to the
Okay, so
resolve that the board has reviewed the plans. What date, John?
March. I'm sorry. It's March 22nd, 2019.
Prepared by Edmund Hollander and dated March 22?
March 22, 2019.
2019, as approved and acceptable. Acceptable and approved.
All right.
So I'll make a motion that...
So moved.
Yeah, so moved. So moved. Second. Susan moved it, I'll second. Aye.
Excuse me?
Yeah, we should keep
those. You should keep those because Bo wanted some evidence that...
we talked.
Oh, that's the
yes.
Aye. Got together. I couldn't get them at council because...
Aye.
Okay. So this is a resolution, right? So there's no signing of anything.
Correct.
Correct?
Thanks very much.
Take care.
Good night.
Happy Easter.
That concludes... Next, we're moving on to public hearings, non-historic. Number 1, Herman Lamison, 153 David White's Lane, construct addition and exterior alterations.
Hi, good evening, Frank DeVito. Herman Lamison. I have a submittal.
Is this different from what's in the file?
It's slightly different.
So that means different?
The elevations of the...
It's the same.
Same.
Is the house the same?
The house is the same.
Okay, that's what I'm asking. I guess it wasn't clear. See?
Just the same...
We did print it now on a nice, easy to approve thinner paper.
I'm sorry?
We printed on a nice, easy to approve thinner paper.
Okay.
We also added this nice little Volkswagen, so off the side, no Range Rovers or Ford pickups. So what you have here is simple rivet drawings. We're doing a 720 square foot addition to an existing house. So if you look at the very front elevation, the way the roof comes up, we're aligning it with the rear gable. So the clear story that was in question, is it the same pitch, same angle, same everything? It's just letting light in the back room of the house on the north side of the house. So we're trying to, you know, create a look of a farm-style contemporary. And this is what we're proposing and looking for approval for.
Can I ask one question? I've asked this before, but these renderings call it into question again. The rear windows on the west side of the house, above, in the gable, so above the plate, do they have mullions or
So
are
if you
they
look at
plate glass?
A2.1, there's a thin
Yeah.
line mullion on there.
Okay, but A2.0 just shows in the picture
It doesn't
window.
show on that three-dimensional.
Got it, okay.
It doesn't show because trying to pick that up on that trapezoid look is just going to distort them.
So the mullions are as shown on A2.1?
Correct. I also brought some samples, this Apile mahogany, with a bleaching and a silver mix on it to show you the color. And then the stucco color. So it's a very sleek, low-line house, 18 foot high, kind of trying to get this to,
I'm not going to be the first one out of the chute. What do other people have to say?
Well, I wasn't here last week, so I'll take it on. So I had Frank and Herman to go on largely the rendering. And as I looked at that neighborhood, there are a lot of smaller, they're ranch houses, a lot of ranch houses. And then the street moves on to some more traditional houses. There is an interesting house at 112, which has a design that's similar. I mean, it has that that back portion.
Yes.
So when I looked at that house against your rendering, or the other way around, your rendering against that house, I wish the rendering was more like that house. I realize it's a different house, but I would approve 112. I'm not inclined to approve this house on the basis it's partly the design, it's partly the materials, it's partly the coloring. You call it sleek, farm-style, contemporary, and all of those amount to me to something that's a bit disharmonious. Again, you don't necessarily have to duplicate 112, but that look seemed to incorporate some of the design features in terms of space-wise that you're looking to accomplish, but in a more harmonious way.
so broadly, if you were looking at the old renderings with the darker materials, you missed last week's
I
rendering.
was looking at what
This is the file today.
Okay.
whatever was in the file today. Frank.
Also, it's also two.
It was not here last week.
Also, too, at 112 David White Lanes, you can clearly see the roof line of the way that comes off with
Yeah.
what we're proposing.
Right.
You don't see those windows facing house because the lot is situated differently with the house.
Yeah, again, it's there are a lot of little things that
But
then when
that's a wide lot,
then
we're a narrow lot.
when I add them all together, it makes me viewing that house as more compatible with the ranch houses and then the evolution, the segueing into the more traditional houses that are further down the street to the south. I realize you're on the north end of it, and this is a neighborhood that's likely to change. And if it were to change, it is changing.
Well, I grew up in that neighborhood,
Okay.
and it's changed a lot over the years.
I'd like it to change more like 112 than this particular design.
But
Because-
112, once again, is a wide lot, not as deep. We're a narrow lot with the
The lot
depth,
is
so
a lot.
we're
I'm only
very...
talking about the structure. And
His clear story is also facing the west, so he's capturing the west sun. We're looking to capture the south sun, not the morning east sun.
right, those are all results. what I'm talking about is the design, and what our charge is to look at the materials, to look at the design, to look at the siding and all those other things. And what I'm saying is each of those things added up results, in my judgment, a structure that's disharmonious with the others. And I'm offering 112 as something that I think gets you towards what you're looking for in terms of the use of the space, and a somewhat contemporary design, but with materials, coloring, and features that seem to be more compatible with the neighborhood.
I remember the approval of 112. It took a long time.
Yeah.
And you know what swayed the board? Having something more depth than just a one-dimensional black and white rendering. I think we're losing perspective in seeing this.
But there is a rendering in the file.
Well, that is it's a little cartoonish. Something a little bit more contextual that we've seen before, where we've actually seen it cited, and it doesn't look so computer rendered.
You mean he's talking about this?
Is this something that happened last? Because I wasn't here at the last meeting.
Yeah.
All right.
No, there was, I think there was
That's
one.
the old
This is the old one.
There was
old one.
one
There's
with
the
a
silver one.
sliding, with a sliding shutter.
They all have
have one
sliding
for you.
shutters,
You want
one
this one?
silver and one
Yeah,
tin.
yeah.
Here we go,
You have that too?
Curtis.
Thank you. See, this is lighter than that. Now, two things I'll say as compliments. Thank you for not going and building up
Well,
and building out to the maximum degree which most investors do, and especially specifically in this area, because I think it's one of the last three, I guess, quasi-affordable areas for Southampton Village. So there are a lot you could have done that you didn't.
This is not for an investor, this is actually for my daughter.
Okay.
So that's why it's...
Oh, really?
Yes.
doesn't matter. Doesn't matter who's living there.
Just making a point.
But I think what would be helpful is if the entire building, entire structure itself was just one contextual material. If it's going to be clad, if it's going to be wood, if it's whatever the material is going to be, it's just uniform throughout the entire building, that it flows through. I like the color being lighter than it was earlier, at least from the rendering standpoint. But I think it was just one color, one material being used throughout the entire building. I know what you want to do. You want to see the contrast between the little bit more traditional to the contemporary, and you want to show that contrast. But I think it's that's hurting the design overall. And if it was just one universal material, it may help blend a little bit better.
But I'm not understanding how there is that big of a contrast between this. The early rendering was just showing a natural wood, which in the coloring came out dark, because even off the line, it's not that as dark as the rendering showed. So this is, I see they do blend together. You know, there was comments that they didn't like the rolling shutters, you know, and
I think they're actually attractive. It's something unique. You know, you have a unique house, and you're being very playful in terms of your design. And hey, you know, everyone
once again, it's sleek, it's low to the ground, it's not
Understood.
jumping out at anybody. There's no
But
red front door.
with such a radical design, try to simplify it as much as you possibly can. I get what you're saying in a different style house, maybe, but I think if you just blend everything into one.
We're not here to design sticks of butter. We're not here. This is, you know, architecture that he likes, that he's looking for. And I think it's a good blend together. There's a house right around the
Helpful
corner.
tips to help. You don't have to follow them.
I appreciate it. I do. And if it was a spec house or something else, of course, I would make some alterations and come back, but I'm here 3 times.
Yeah, but with the same design.
Same architecture.
We're trying to give, some of us are trying to give you the message that,
I'm
at least
thick.
I'd be willing to give you the
I'm thick.
message.
That's
that
why I printed on thin paper.
I don't think it actually holds together as a house. I think it's disparate elements really.
I think you
And-
gotta get off
Well,
of
that's my
these.
opinion, Mr. DeVito.
You have to look at the roof lines, you have to
I've looked at the whole thing right, left, and center, and I find it to be at least two houses jammed together, if not more. It's just discordant in almost every phase, so I could not accept it. Anyone else?
Well, I understand what you're trying to do, and I think that the way you change the materials on the last plan looks better, but it does look like two houses put together. There's something that just doesn't
It doesn't, like architecture, that's what architecture does. It takes the forms, even different ones.
And I know why you want this there, I understand that, but somehow it just...
Meeting house, some of the old bungalows that were added on to.
They don't look like this to me, Mr. DeVito. I
Because
love
what they were
bungalows.
done-
Exactly. I like small houses. I have nothing
They were
against
added
them.
on to the
But to me, this just does not work as a house. Even the fenestration, it all seems to be of many pieces together. And
So the fenestration, what are you saying? You don't like the thin line muttons?
they just, none of it, it's like a different idea almost everywhere you look in the fenestration. But that's the least, honestly, just the forms themselves, I think are, it does not hold together as a house. One part does and the other part does. Together, they don't seem to form anything that I would call a structure that under the guidelines, architectural guidelines, it doesn't fit anything, and it's not cohesive, I guess, in its design. If you wanted it to be discordant in one way, I would understand that, but we have a pitched roof house, we have a flat roofed house, we have a dormer thing coming up with a pitch. To me, different windows, the mullions with the big windows with the original house, I don't know what that has to do with any of the rest of it. It really, to me, is not something I could approve. I have looked and looked, and I just can't go there. Anyone else? I'm sorry, but I just can't. And I think it could happen. This isn't the way. I can't tell you how to do it, but you could add on to the little house and not have it look like this. What?
The blend with the area is what? Yellow aluminum siding, faded?
You know what? This is an up-and-coming area. It's not our job to approve something that we don't think is appropriate. It's not my job, I would say, to approve something that I don't think is appropriate for the village of Southampton in this neighborhood. So I'm not willing to do
I
that.
see a lot of styles like this in more
Really
prominent
pointed
areas.
out, I don't see any style like that. It's not a style, that's what I guess I'm saying. It's many styles combined. Rob?
I mean, since there's no changes in the plan, I don't really have anything to say beyond what I said in previous meetings.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I wasn't here. Could you just...
It's available on tape, but I'm happy to go through a little bit. First of all, I'd say with respect to 112, is that the gray house on the other side of the street?
That's unfortunate, too.
Right. I would say, and we approved something there recently, a change to the front door, I
Yeah.
think, sometime in the last 8 or 9
Entrance.
months. As I was reviewing that file, the thing that I wanted to say at one point was I'd be more favorable to this, and we ended up approving it, if you took off those windows on the back, which we can't do, and that's not really our job, but I think it's the most inappropriate part of that house. And I think that form that stands up over that house sticks out in the neighborhood already. So I wouldn't cite that as a good precedent for what you want to do. Let me speak. I was asked to explain my decision. I think the thing I'm having trouble with is somewhat what Susan said. I see really 3 different forms. 2 of them are somewhat alike, although one of them is cut off, and it's very noticeably cut off. And to say that those windows on the west in the front room in the northeast corner won't be seen from a public road because they face south, they will be seen. You're 40 feet back from the road. There's an opening in the driveway. People will see over the hedges, and I think you notice those windows. But it's not really even the windows that bother me. You'll see the form from the street straight on. I don't see a precedent for a form where you see most of the form and it's suddenly cut off. I think there's a way to handle that, but it's not carried through to the rest of the design. So it seems like it stands on its own, and it's unusual. And I think that, along with a flat roof section, I think in particular the transom windows over the 3 French doors, there's 2 sets of transom windows, feel on this is on the south facade, don't flow, and I don't think they're compatible with the rest of the design. And I just see a lack of cohesion, as Susan said. You have some modern elements, the flat roof and a very broad chimney, which I like. Those are fine. You have a sort of postmodern element in the cut-off gabled end in the front, and you have a very traditional ranch-style form in the back. And I'm not feeling how they're blending together. And to the point about materials, it's not just color. Texture matters as well. And I agree with Jeff's comments. One of the things that 112 has going for it is that it is a consistent material painted a consistent color. And there are different forms, and it's been added onto over time, but the material and the color are consistent on the outside. And so I'm not against trying to create something more interesting. We've approved some of those. I've approved some of those. I just don't feel there's enough cohesion here, and it's not color, it's a combination of forms, primarily a combination of forms that doesn't feel cohesive and is unusual in a way, and that's not always a bad thing, it can be a very good thing. This is unusual in a way, I don't want to say in a bad way, but I just don't see examples similar to this elsewhere in the village. I'm not comfortable with this design right now. It doesn't feel architecturally cohesive to me.
So in regards to the back of the house, we went from a 5-pitch roof to a 10-pitch roof, which the village likes. Stronger pitches, we're looking for stronger pitches. The whole idea for the fenestration in that gable is to bring light in, the west sun in through the house. It's a wide open floor plan on the inside. We're not putting any fenestration, any skylights, anything on the right side over there, on the south side.
But we're saying to you, all of those things are important, perhaps, to the owner. But what we're saying to you, I believe, is that we can't approve the form of the house, the architecture of the house, regardless of the light going in the open floor plan, that we just can't approve it. So until we get a different plan, I believe nothing's going to move forward.
I mean, it looks like it's designed from the inside out.
It might be.
Sort of like the inside space is driving the architecture on the outside.
I don't know what's driving it, but it just doesn't...
Can I ask you a question? Have you thought, just as a thought, and our job's not to design, but I see what you're trying to do and get light into that room there. If you continued that gable roof down fully onto the flat roof, so it ended on the flat roof, and put 3 dormers across there to get those windows in, is that something you consider?
That's, no, that's nothing I'd consider because
that's good.
Then you're adding some type of traditional dog houses in there. You know, even if we, I guess, you know what though? We could bring the roof down and we could put just one big dormer with 3 windows in there. But then you're gonna look too, you're gonna end up with more of a metal roof on top of something because the pitch is gonna be so shallow.
If I had to point to one thing that's bothering me most on cohesion, it's that chop of that gable form.
The clear story.
Yeah.
Is bothering you.
Well,
that's the thing I think that makes it's the spice that's wrong in this stew for me. There may be some other elements that I prefer to see differently, but that's the thing that calls attention to the forms. And once I start looking at the forms, they don't appear cohesive. So that's the starting point for me, is that clear story.
So where are we?
Did you look at a flat roof version of this at some point in concept? Everything flat roof?
Looking for that, it's a stick of butter.
Well, that's your idea. Okay.
I'm not sure what that means.
Okay, so we're at a stalemate. I believe we're at a stalemate. I don't know for sure.
What is the applicant asking us to do?
I have no idea.
Grant permission to build the house.
We understand that, but we're having trouble with it. We're not trying to I just can't go there. So we have, Curtis, are you good with it?
We don't have the votes.
No, we certainly don't.
It doesn't matter.
We have, so we don't have, we're at a stalemate. Something has to give. Bringing the same plan back, I don't think is a very successful plan, but you're welcome to do
Thought
whatever
tree
you'd
was a
like.
chump.
What?
I thought tree was a chump.
No, I think
Even
we've
use
been
the thin
very
paper.
clear about.
I did.
our-
It's always been
I
approved
think
before.
we've really
I want
been
my
very
money back.
clear. And it's,
Don't tease like, please don't joke like that.
No, I want my money back for the paper.
Oh, yeah, right.
oh, Frank, come on. Do you want the paper?
Guaranteed approval.
So what, are you asking?
Paper sucks.
So what's going to happen next, Frank?
I don't know.
Anything?
I don't know.
Okay, so you're asking us to adjourn, what are, you don't- so- okay, so you don't have the votes, so we can either,
Well, we can either vote tonight, or you can
Yeah.
request an adjournment.
if we vote tonight, you're voted down, that's what we're telling you. And then you'd have to start with a new building permit, so you probably don't want to do that, do you?
No, we're already into this thing pretty good
Okay,
already.
okay, I hear you. So you're asking to adjourn for all purposes?
Herman doesn't like things before it's
Without
put in his
prejudice.
mouth.
It doesn't have to be the next meeting, it could be 2 meetings from now. What would you like?
Well, we're 4 months behind already, so it's another 2 meetings.
Well,
What is?
you
It's up
you
to
could say next meeting, and if it's not going to
we
work,
better
notify the building
Okay.
department beforehand,
So
and we
is
can push
is
it
that what
back
you would
again.
like?
Adjourn until the 22nd.
So I'll
The
make
day
a,
after Easter.
Correct.
Yes.
I'll make a motion that
You're gonna bring
we,
your chocolate.
Okay,
make a motion that we adjourn this application at the applicant's request until the meeting of the 22nd.
Second.
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Good night.
Thanks, guys.
Next, Anthony Albanese, 64 Armand Street. Construct 2-story single-family dwelling. Are these the same as what's in the file? Yes?
Yes.
Your name?
My name is Yu Liu. I'm the architect for 64 Armand.
So are you before the planning board, or we done, oh, you got an approval? is
We
that
had a
right?
ZBA.
A ZBA? I'm sorry, I didn't mean the planning board. I just said, do you have a plan of the roof in here?
I didn't see it in our plans.
Because we have, I would need to see that.
I have a 3D with the roof on.
Now, roof plans, do you have roof plans?
You can see the roof plan. The dotted lines is the roof.
I'm sorry?
The dotted line on the second floor is the roof. I didn't specifically do a roof plan
Well,
because we
we're
never...
having some questions about the flat parts of roofs that we need to examine. And
Yeah, there's a little bit here in the middle.
Well, how much of it is a little bit?
Looks like it's about 12 feet by about, I'm guessing 35 feet,
That's not so little
30
bit.
to 35.
What page are you on? Oh, it's only in
A3.
there?
On the,
Copy, Zach?
it's on the A3.
A3.
I can measure it.
We
So this
should
whole
have roof
s-
plans.
Yes, we need
and
roof
set of
plans.
plans, too.
I think we have to ask for it. After our.
I'm not going to vote until we see it.
Okay, we
I
can't,
never-
we can't
never
approve
did
it.
a-
We need roof plans because there have been some too big flatness in the roof that I don't know if we were as aware as we should have been in previous applications, so we're becoming more aware of it.
Is a flat roof related to them putting on solar panels
Yeah.
or something like that? Is that it?
It can be.
It can be used as putting a solar panel.
Well, I'm just
Why does
curious.
that matter?
It boxes
No,
out.
I'm just asking a question.
It gives
Sometimes
them-
questions can just be questions.
Okay. Well,
I wasn't prepared to, and, you
Okay,
know.
well, next time, because we really do need to see it.
We never had to do a roof plan.
Okay, well, now you do, sorry.
You've never had to do a roof plan?
No, for
In the building
ARB,
plans?
I never had to
You're asked to submit a
present.
full set of plans, right? Doesn't a full set of plans include a roof plan?
For the ARB, we never.
The
never-
ARB requests a full set of plans, right? Is that not true? I'm sorry.
Yes, we should have a full set of plans. So you're going to have to come back next time with the roof plan for us.
We can go through this now,
But you can present, it'll be quick the next time if it's all okay.
Okay.
I'm sorry, it shouldn't be a surprise because there are roof, even on this and looking at A6, the depth of the roof is becoming some sort of an architectural issue for the village.
Yes.
And we're somehow jumped in the middle of it, so we're taking it on at this point until things get resolved.
Yes, sir.
The frustration is not so much with you, Celia.
It's not.
It's not, okay. It's not you, it's me. Teasing you. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay. The properties on the corner of Armand and Moses is a very long, narrow strip of property, and then it's tilted towards back. And there's currently a ranch on the property. We're basically building a new two-story house, basically the exactly same spot where the old house is. So if you can see, it's right here. And
But you have to go to the planning, to the CBA for...
Yes, we have setback variance approved, and we also have sky plane variance approved.
And they approved those requests? I read it, but I've forgotten.
And
is that in there? Isn't there a copy of that ZBA thing?
I don't know. Sorry.
There is.
Yes, there is.
I asked for it.
Yeah.
Okay, continue, sorry, I just want to review.
The house is Hampton's traditional, 2 gables, and the siding is white, windows are white, columns are white, trims are white, and roof are cedar. And this really pretty typical, and this is the south side. This is the west side facing the Moses, and this side facing the swimming pool, and this side faces Armand.
On the north elevation, there's a chimney that's outside. What is with the chimney?
Yes, there is a chimney.
Is that a porch?
Yes, there is.
The chimney goes up, it's an outside something?
It's an outdoor fireplace right by the porch.
Okay.
And that's where it is.
An outdoor chimney needs to extend, not be past the roof?
Yeah.
I believe so, because the smoke might goes into the window.
I guess because of its proximity to the house.
You still have the 10-foot requirement. I think it's 10 feet from the opening at the top to any combustible structure.
Gotcha.
So it has to go up past the roof line.
So, yeah, so I'm very familiar with the house, the street. I live within a block or so. And my concern is on the north elevation that it's going to present itself as, particularly with the flat roof, as something akin to a 3-story house, and which would make it out of scale with the other houses in the neighborhood. And pointing out the fact that there's this outside chimney, which may have to be constructed the way it is because of its proximity to the house, but then it doesn't have to be there. So you've got a few things there that will make that presentation on the north side, which is Armand Street look very big, blocky, and then if you add the fact that it's a flat roof, and it doesn't come to a peak, which then is reflected on the east elevation, I'm sorry, on the west elevation, I think it's just going to present itself as more massive and blocky than the houses on that particular end of Moses. I know in reading the ZBA submission that the attorney made claims that it's an area of large houses. Well, that's true when you go towards Hill Street, but not in this neighborhood. So my concern is that the design and the flat roof, the chimney, the long facade is going to present out of scale and boxy to that neighborhood.
I don't think you can really see the flat roof.
Well, it's... You may not.
It's not the flat roof, it's the form of the building that is created by the flat roof, which is that you've maxed, instead of that the volume at the top of the house is there are a couple of examples. 107 Wickapog is my favorite, that use the space in a way that I don't think it was intended, the code meant to exhibit, which is that you kind of have a peaked roof, but you really don't, because behind it you have a big boxy structure, which makes for a volume of a house, especially on a property this small, in an area of legitimate houses that don't have that, inappropriate.
Right.
And in fact, even on Wickapog, when you drive down heading west, it's obvious that it's obvious to me that that's not acceptable. That's all. That we don't want a big boxy top to a house. The house is with a peaked roof has a peaked roof or has gables, and that then doesn't have a giant table-like structure behind it.
Right. And I think it's, the fact that you got a variance to pierce the pyramid law sort of speaks to that. Now, granted that I assume the ZBA made that exception because they thought the explicit or at least the direct application of the zoning laws was perhaps incongruous with the nature of that lot. But then it comes to us and says, okay, so maybe mathematically you can make that all work, maybe it's only a foot or two, but then the end result is something that expands beyond the envelope, which was designed for a reason, and then it's augmented or made more dramatic by the fact that a portion of that roof is flat, so it's going to present itself. And it's here. There are no peaks. I mean, if you had a peak here, then it would be more subtle. But
I have the 3D drawings. Maybe that will help us.
We actually need a roof plan. I'm going to repeat myself. Okay?
Okay. I don't have it tonight.
You're going to have to bring it because we're no longer going to. I feel that I was remiss in certain ways, and I'm not going to. I don't want to be like
This
that.
one, I was submitting it,
Well, other people do submit roof plans, I would just say.
Yeah.
The planning board, the building department should be requiring it, so we're sorry they didn't.
Here we go. Well, that's helpful.
Waste of it.
But that's exactly what I'm talking about.
And if you can see that there's a very narrow strip of...
Well, what percentage? It's not that narrow or small. So if you had to make the roof without that, you would have to come down a bit, correct? In the height of this building.
No.
Yes.
It will be the same height. The pitch of the roof will change. So you might not want to see that pitch. Because...
Well, I might.
Right. So, when I look at this, because this is Almond Street, where I drive all the time. So, Rob, and you're an expert on perspective, and I say that with all kindness. This presents a very false image of what will present to the street. This looks like you're standing 50 or 60 feet away looking at a house. That house, the footprint of that house is, it's damn close to the road. And so, you're going to have a house on Almond Street that's just going to be big, in your face, And
You have 34.8 feet to the property line,
yeah,
to the front porch.
Yeah.
And 36.5 feet to the front house at its, or 35 feet actually at its closest.
it's going to present big. And it's going to present boxy and just not consistent with the other houses on that end of Moses or some of the other houses. See, the house right across the street. Remember the architect came in and we did that. Cute house, designed.
You want to do two different materials.
Right.
Part of your challenge is you have reverse gables that are very shortened. So what you're doing is you're literally taking and you're creating the third floor.
Yep.
It's almost like if you look at the house is in stages, your first floor, your second floor, and the roof, and the reason I'm sure they're looking at or want to have access to the roof details is to see if there's living space, if this is going to be occupied. There's a reason why that much volume is going up to the third floor. Typically is before living space or to occupy it for some reason. Neither here or there happens inside, but unfortunately that reads outside as a 3-story building.
Well put. And that is my concern, it's so elongated purposefully to accommodate this, whatever it is in the third floor.
Well,
what's up there? Because we're not seeing it.
Well, when we were applying for the ZBA approval, we have actually neighbor supporting letters, and I have included in this file.
But that's not the issue of the ZBA letters are about where it's located, not the volume of the house, which is what we're discussing.
They've seen the plans.
They have seen the plans and the 3D drawings, and they all wrote, we have 4 neighbors all wrote letters of support. So that's we assume that the neighbors do like the look. And as for the chimney...
You know what? I like the look. I don't like the volume. That's a different thing. The shortened gables, you have stretched it up. Is that what?
You
to accommodate
the house.
Yeah. So, and that really isn't in character with the neighborhood.
Let's just ask straightforward. What's happening on the third floor?
I asked, didn't get an answer.
Is there living space?
It's attic.
It's attic.
To me, it doesn't matter, but...
Yeah, it doesn't matter to me either.
I'm trying to figure out what's driving...
What's driving it? I think what's driving it is the 10-foot or 9. How large are the finished floors in the first floor? How tall?
The first floor is 10.
10-foot finished floors, and the second floor is how tall? Finished floors. This is what's driving it. You're getting 18 or 19 feet of finished flooring without even the structure, and then at that point, you're only going to have, in order to meet it under the height limit, you're only going to have so much before you need to truncate your roof line.
Yeah.
So it's the finished floors on the first 2 floors that are driving the height. Really.
Right.
That's what's driving the height.
So that's the stretch up.
It's stretching
right.
up. And the issue is when you walk around the house, I think you've done a nice job of hiding the flat roof. The problem is when you see it in elevation, you can't really tell.
Yep.
But as people walk or drive around this house, you start to see the thing is actually a cube with a few nice architectural details on it. And that's not the type of house that's been here traditionally, and it's not compatible with the neighborhood. So I agree with everything Jeff said for that reason. I'm having trouble with the fact that I think in order to minimize the variance and try to meet the sky plane, you're truncating the north-south ridge lines on the southern end, and you're not on the northern end. So as you go around the house and compare the front to the back, and you'll see it from the side because that's on Moses, you have this asymmetry. I have some specific comments on the fenestration in the back of the house. I don't understand why the 3 windows in the middle are, and this is on the south elevation, why they are taller at both the bottom and top than the other windows. I don't know if you want to give an explanation for that, those 3 in the middle.
This is the kitchen window. It's over the counter.
Okay.
And we
So I would say...
And this is 2-story high.
Okay, I would say that, but I understand that's the interior, but from the exterior, that's a strange look to have those windows. I'd see why they're taller then, but I would like to see those windows, if we're going to come back with something to address other concerns, I'd like to see those windows at the top of them at the same height as the other windows. Because from the outside, it doesn't matter why you're doing it, that it's 2 stories. It looks strange to me from the outside. It's not compatible with traditional architecture.
So, are you talking, so it's this and this?
The 3, no, I'm talking about those 3 in a
Yeah,
row
but
on the
then on
first
top-
row. And then the 4 on top,
Are also out of scale. They're shifted with,
it's also, the 4 are too static and they're not centered and.
right, there's something off.
It's too busy, in
Yeah.
my view. It
They're
creates a,
clear story windows, yeah.
I'm sorry?
They're clear story windows.
Clear story windows. So you have some flexibility in the number and the placement of those.
They're not clear story windows. Clear story windows are at the top.
Well, you're saying that it's a 2-story.
And what are these
It's
windows
2
then?
stories in there, is what she's saying, right?
I know, but that is not a clear story window. That's a bedroom window or something.
On the second floor, we'll look at that one.
No,
It's an open space.
this is the open space about the kitchen. If you look on the
Well, then
A3,
most clear story windows are not close to the size of the other windows.
I see.
most
And you're
buildings.
off-centering them in order to get a closet into a room. So I would suggest, among other things, maybe reducing those to 3 and centering them
Right.
in that space. And the freestanding chimney, I get why you're doing it. I'd love to have an outdoor fireplace. It's a great feature. I agree with what Jeff said. The chimney, along with that facade, which is essentially a 3-story facade, will loom over the street in a way that I don't think other houses do. To me, it's incompatible.
well, I was driving around, I took a picture of somebody's chimney, even though it's attached to the house,
Right.
That's so different. It's so different.
But we're gonna have shrubbery here all along. It's already
Not
there.
hiding the architecture. We really are having issues with that.
I think, as I heard Rob,
I have a huge issue with that window, that chimney.
Me too.
I'm sorry, Christina, if you wanted to. Well, as I was listening to Rob, I was thinking that we're sort of all saying the same thing, that the house is out of scale for the property and for that particular neighborhood. And part of it may be that the client wants a house that is just too big for that property. And which makes it, when I say too big, it's great to want to have 10-foot ceilings, but perhaps that lot can't handle a house with that sort of volume and still be compatible. Now, I think of a house that's in that neighborhood. I think it's on the corner of Henry and Howell or something like that. Similar property, and it's long, it's on the same corner, and it's long and narrow, presents the same way, it presents facing west, and then there's a long house. And they actually do have an outdoor deck or patio on the back, but it's more in keeping. It looks like a 2-story house. And if, in fact, there's no living space on the 3rd floor, which we'll accept what you say, then I dare say that they probably have about the same GFA in a much more compatible scaling.
But at those finished heights for the first 2 floors, if the answer is then reduce the attic, you're going to get much flatter roof. I think this is something that Sue said. You'll get a much lower
What happens
pitch.
if you don't have 10-foot ceiling? I mean, something has to give. I don't think we could have to say what it is.
Right.
But what everyone is saying seems to be
It's an
the
architectural
volume
challenge.
of the house on a lot that's very narrow and that presents close to the street in a neighborhood where there aren't, I don't know what you would call houses of this nature, of this scale.
And on a corner lot where you experience a house as you drive around it. So there are some lots that could hide a flat roof and the boxiness better than this lot because it's a corner. So as you go around this house, you're going to see that bulk and that form that Jeff is talking about, the volume.
If you want this volume home, you're going to have to hide or shed that volume in terms of design.
Somewhere.
In terms of design. That's ultimately what everyone's saying. It's
Yeah.
reading on a lot it's reading on a lot in the manner that its volume impacts how we as passersby and we judging the application, reviewing the application, it just seems like it'll read larger than it should. With that said, you want to have the same volume. I don't think anyone's saying reduce the house. They're saying the volume based on what we're reading on this on black and white design or black and white plans right now just don't fit. So how do you, now we have to say from this board to an architect, how do you design it in a manner, in a way that will give you the volume you're looking for, but just doesn't give that three-story look or style?
Right.
I can't really.
Well, we're not asking you to do it right now.
You aren't?
Just use your imagination.
Well, but I think what you're hearing is that we're not going to be able to approve this the way it is. Is that correct?
Well, the thing is that I don't have to have the flat roof on the top.
It has to be reworked,
as long
though.
as the picture is slightly shallower.
It's still the presentation of this tall facade with this little roof and then the boxy roof, the box out at the top. I'm not an architect. I can't tell you what to do, but I think everyone is saying that something's got to give. Like the roof has to come down, the pitch of the roof. You may have to give up some space in the top. I don't know, but it's presenting.
To give up some ceiling height?
Yeah. But I mean, I don't think it's
Right.
going to destroy your house. It's just going to make it more appropriate for the neighborhood and make it so it does not present as such an enormous looming facade and box. Yes?
I think also what it is, in an effort to give what you want or people want inside the house, the kind of
Right.
space they want, you kind of destroy the outside architecture, or it's just so out of proportion. I mean, look at the roof. The first two floors.
Right, and that's sort of what
You're trying to
happens
give
when
the
you
kind of
square off that
space you
top.
want inside, but you can't sacrifice how it looks from the outside.
Because our concern is the outside, not the inside.
We really don't look at the inside. We don't really have any jurisdiction over what goes inside the house. We look at the outside. And that just doesn't look right.
Okay.
I still quite grasp the idea of why it's not look right.
Okay.
Why it's what?
The scale is, our charge includes scale. And what everybody is saying, so harmonious in terms of style, mass, so it's mass, scale. Your job as an architect is to listen to what's been said here, and it's been pretty consistent, Sue, which is that the scale is too big. If that means that they have to reduce the volume of the house, or if you have to create a different design, we can't figure that all out. But as Susan said, something has to give, because right now, the scale is out of harmony with the neighborhood. So
I'd be willing to bet there are not many other houses on that street or on immediately adjacent streets, with a couple of exceptions, that have more than a 9-foot finished ceiling height on the first floor. So your clients have bought a piece of property in a neighborhood that doesn't have that vernacular and doesn't have that pressure in terms of height and volume in the architecture, and want a 10-foot finished ceiling. And it creates a volume that is, therefore, a volume and a formation of that volume that's incompatible with our other houses in the neighborhood. So they can either give up some ceiling, it's the architect's challenge, they can give up some finished ceiling height, they can propose a different angle of the roof line, but something that would give more motion to that roof as you went around it and saw it from different dimensions. Right now, with that flat area, it creates a lack of motion. It starts to look like a block. And that's different to other houses in the neighborhood and a lot of houses in the village. So it's, just repeat what two people said now, something has to give. They want a lot, and I understand it, and they deserve to get what they can get, but the net effect is they've created a design that we seem to believe pretty consistently is not compatible with other houses in the neighborhood and is not harmonious. And so I think at this point we're all sort of saying the same thing.
And as an addendum, I don't think many people are going to favor this giant chimney on the outside of the porch.
If it were on the back, I might feel differently
right,
about
well,
it.
if they could put it someplace that it's not going to be acceptable, I believe, just to save you time and effort. So are you asking us for an adjournment, or we could vote? Those
Oh,
are the,
no, don't vote.
okay.
Don't vote. We have actually one of our neighbors who's coming here to support us. Maybe the board would like to hear what she has to say.
Julie Sanchez, I'm the neighbor to the south, my husband and I. And we do like the house, we think it's attractive. I understand what your concerns are. Those don't particularly bother us. It was really important during the ZBA that the house be toward Moses, just so that the house mass wouldn't be right over our house. So this is a little bit forward from our house. Our house is a funny situate on the lot. We're like a long, narrow lot, and our house is kind of...
Entrance on Moses.
Yes, entrance on Moses. And it's kind of our house runs along the side. It's hard. It kind of, it's not in line with this house. We're kind of back here like this. It's set way back.
Yep.
So having the house forward was our biggest concern.
Right.
And I think that I do like the design. I think it is attractive. I do understand your concerns.
Okay.
But we do think the architecture is nice.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
But Jolie, are you more in tune with the siting of this house as opposed to the architecture?
I think the architecture is attractive, but I understand what you're saying, what your concerns are as regard to height. And I know now with the flat roof, with the laws on the flat roof, there's issues with that.
It's quite hard for me to envision, but if you drive around, you can see a few of these houses that have these flat roofs behind these gables that are, like, to me, false, so that the house from different perspectives is very, it's very dense in a sense, the volume of it.
A true gabled house, as light goes around during the day, you get different shadows and it has some movement. When you have these sort of false gables, it just has a different look. And as you go around it, particularly, as I said, on a corner lot, you don't experience that movement. So it's a different architecture to what's been here traditionally, and we've seen a lot of it. And I think there's a growing concern that it's not as appropriate or compatible, and that we're seeing a lot of these flat roofs, and it could relatively quickly change some of the visual vocabulary.
Sure.
Right.
Sure. Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are we having an adjournment?
I guess.
Okay.
Take the stamps.
I make a motion.
We approve the applicant's request for an adjournment until 4/22/19 for Anthony Albanese, 64 Armand Street.
So moved.
Aye.
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 I'm going to vote on 60.